Come on in Facebook, come on in YouTube. Getting ready to start my show called Jimmy Rants over on Instagram. You guys are having a nice Tuesday so far. Has it gotten hot where you live yet? Man, it is so hot and humid here. I needed to go out. There's a little patch of grass in my backyard where I used to have mulch. And so where that mulch was, there is now, and we've removed the thing that had the mulch and everything. So we left the mulch, but the grass growing through the mulch. And so up came this really deep, dark green grass with strong roots. So now whenever my grass grows, I have this little patch than anything else. So I have to mow it before I mow the whole grass. So like yesterday it's like 94 degrees here. It was crazy hot. And I'm out there with my push mower. And of course it's and the strength of grass that you have to kind of like lift it up and then set it down and lift it up so it doesn't bog down. Oh man. So it's just this little, probably 4 feet by about 20 feet kind of strip of green grass. So welcome to my world. Norma, Tracy, Tana, Nancy, Danette, Tanja, thank you all for being here. Thank you guys for being here today as well over here on my YouTube channel. Looks like Shirley said hello. Hello, Shirley. High 90s in West Virginia, Norma says today. So, yeah, it is that time of year. It's so funny. It was 93 or 4 yesterday here in Spartanburg, South Carolina. And I'm like, this is June. And if it's already 90 something in June, what's it gonna be in July and August? So maybe it'll kill the coronavirus. That would be awesome if it got plenty warm enough to do that. Danette, what's up, Ryan? All right, so let me get started on my show, Jimmy Rants. It is 11 a.m. Eastern. And yeah, we got a great show in store for you guys here today. So if you're ready, be sure to share here on your page. You can share it. There's a little share button down there. Share it with your followers, any page that you're a part of that you think this will be interesting information to. You can share it to that page as well. So please do so. And here we go. Will eating meat save the world? Find out today here on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little button in the corner down there. It will take you straight to IGTV for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, if you want to engage live in the content, you got to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. And once you're there, enjoy the content. We do go live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, sometimes 5 p.m. Eastern Time during the week, and then sometimes at random times all over the weekend. So you just got to tune in. But definitely we're here 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, and a lot of you guys have said, hey, I've been trying to friend you on Facebook. You've got to accept my friendship. Well, no, I'm capped at 5,000. So some of you guys decide, okay, I've had enough of this Jimmy guy, and you unfollow. Well, when somebody unfollows, then I put new people in, but I've got to wait probably 1,000 people waiting to get in. So follow me on Instagram primarily, but I do love that I get to have all you guys here on Facebook as well. And then, of course, come follow me over on the YouTube stream. There's plenty of room over there. Somebody just yesterday was on my YouTube stream and says, I usually watch you on Instagram, but I wanted to watch you on the YouTube stream. So all of these places you can find me on social media to watch Jimmy Rants. All right, so if you missed the live here, you can watch it on replay on IGTV. Generally goes up right after the show. I put a few show notes in, and then it's right up on my page right there on Instagram. We also put the past episodes up over on YouTube, so type in the keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. And then finally, we have an official website for this show called JimmyRants.com. And so once you go there, you can see all the past episodes right there. And we also have a way for you to support if you like what we do here. I don't do any sponsors on this show by design. I want all the information to get out there. But if you feel like you get some value, throw some value back at me. Just click on the Patreon link, and any donation you can give would be certainly appreciated. Okay, you guys, I have a great topic in store for you here today, because quite often you hear me talk about that there is this rise in the veganism message out there. And it's almost laughable at this point, because they're not even trying to be covert about it. They're not even trying to hide their intentions, which they've been doing for many years. Now they're just outright lying about things, saying that eating meat is the cause of all been doing that one for a little while. Oh, it's going to kill you. You know, see all the headlines. And it's all based on epidemiological studies and studies that are flawed in some way. There's not been one single randomized control clinical trial that shows there's eating meat. And yet they keep putting that out there. But now they've moved on to things like climate change. Oh, the cow's farting everywhere. And therefore it's people eating meat that's the problem with climate. And I'm okay. No, but thank you for trying. They are literally pulling out all the stops, trying to figure out, and there's a new one that's in this article I'm going to read to you that I had not heard before. So when we get to that one, I'll pause for a second and go, what? But veganism, guys, seems to be getting all the headlines, seems to be getting all the attention. Meanwhile, those of us who choose to eat meat, either exclusively as a carnivore diet eater or as part of your healthy diet, I think it's time, those of us that believe in the value of meat, to stand up and to realize meat is not just a blob of flesh. If you talk to groups like PETA and the vegans, they'll just tell you, oh yeah, meat's just a blob of flesh, of fat and protein, it's unhealthy. And when you do that, you discredit all of the wonderful things that meat is and does for your body. And I've talked about this before. There's an excellent book in the keto space from my good friends Craig Emmerich and Maria Emmerich. The name of the book is simply called Keto. Go look it up on Amazon. Wonderful kind of basics of keto, how to, and of course she's a brilliant recipe maker, Maria is. But in there they have a chart of the most nutrient dense foods in the world. And of course, when you talk nutrient density in the mainstream of nutrition, you hear from dietitians and other nutritional health experts, they all talk about quinoa and legumes and chia seeds and all of this kind of stuff as superfoods. Guess where they are on that list of top most nutrient dense foods? Way down towards the bottom. What is at the top? Would it surprise you that the top 20 most nutrient dense foods in the world all come from animals? Yep. And when I say animals, I'm not just talking about chicken. I'm not just talking about lean meats. I'm talking about the fatty cuts of meats. I'm talking about the organ meats. Basically nose to tail, and eating quality animals, grass-fed, grass-finished type of animals, ideally. But really any meat is going to be far superior to almost every single plant-based option. And yet you're never hearing that message clearly. And so I have an article here today from the Post Millennial. And you guys know her. She's Jordan Peterson, the big guru out there that has all these great sayings all over the internet. Well, this is his daughter. And Michaela very famously went on the carnivore diet several years back, dealing with some chronic health issues. Did not have a weight issue, but definitely had chronic health issues, pain associated with that. And she basically went on an all-meat diet and healed her body. And now she's one of the leaders out there in the carnivore movement. She created this kind of offshoot of carnivore she calls the Lion Diet. Just a wonderful follow here on Instagram. I love watching her work and all the things that she does to put out a positive message about meat. So she was one of the authors of this op-ed piece in the Post Millennial. And it's all about forgetting about veganism. We really should eat meat if we want to save this world. So I thought it was worth talking about here today on Jimmy Rants, and thus we will talk about it. So the title is Eat Meat to Save the World. In a recent New York Times op-ed titled "The End of Meat is Near," or is here, The author Jonathan Foer claims that if you care about the working poor, racial justice, climate change, then you have to stop eating animals. Okay, wait. Let me back up to the first one. If you care about the working poor, stop eating animals. How does eating animals not help the working poor? What are they talking about? Racial justice? What does eating meat have to do with solving racial inequalities? Anybody? Like, I've literally never heard that before. Climate change, I have heard that one before, and it's totally debunked. But those two caught me off guard. I'm like, working poor? Oh, what does meat eating have to do with the working poor? Racial justice? Last time I checked, it doesn't matter what race you are. You can eat meat. Not eat meat. That's your choice. Weird. But this isn't quite right. When the food pyramid was released in 1970, we thought we finally understood the problem with red meat. Since then, Americans have dutifully followed this food pyramid. She said food pyramid in 1970. It was actually released in 1980, not 70. I don't know if that was a misprint. Red meat consumption per capita since then is down by almost 30%. So they're making the argument in this article, we have dutifully cut meat from our diet. So what has been the result of that? That is what she's going to talk about next. We now have the sickest population in the history of the world. She says, I was one of those people. 75% of American men are obese or overweight. 50% of people have pre-diabetes or diabetes. 60% of people have one or more chronic diseases. Really, 60% have one or more chronic diseases. I wonder how many of those people in the 60% don't know they have a chronic disease. They just live with it and just think it's just a part of who they are. Or this 60% is the ones who do know they have something. How many more don't realize they have something? That'd be interesting to know. And then only 12% of people are metabolically healthy, which means 88% of people are walking around with insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, autoimmune disease, on and on and on. Over $1.7 trillion is spent annually on chronic disease in the United States alone. This tidal wave of sickness has only accelerated with the dietary recommendations of red meat and fat. So she's got a graph here that shows the rise in obesity coinciding exactly for when the dietary guidelines came out in 1980. And so you can see the graph perfectly begins when in 1980 we started having the dietary recommendations, and then through the roof these obesity rates have gone. There is a growing body of evidence that there's a path forward. So my body was so riddled with autoimmune issues that this was the only way I could get healthy. It's a vegan's worst nightmare, but it shouldn't be, and I'll outline the reasons below. Why is somebody else's success eating only meat a vegan's worst nightmare? This is part of the problem in the nutrition discussion that we're having in America and around the world right now is people are so tribal in their chosen diet that they can't even see the forest for the trees about how someone else could possibly see success on something that might be diametrically opposed to what you do. I literally have no problem with a vegan who wants to eat a plant-based diet because it makes them happy and healthy. What do I care? Well, why is that Jimmy Moore's problem that someone else chooses to eat something besides me? And to me, as someone who eats a mostly animal-based diet, if they eat vegan, it means I got more meat. Otherwise, we're fighting over the meat. So go ahead, eat all the quinoa, all the beans, all the everything you want that's not meat, and I'll take your meat. You can have my vegetables, and I can have your meat. Sounds like a good deal to me. But I don't understand that, why we have to bicker and fight and argue and tell people they're wrong because they are choosing a plan that runs counter to what we do. So I don't know why someone who only eats beef would be a vegan's worst nightmare, unless your diet is not just your nutritional choice, but instead it's also your religion. Am I stepping on some toes yet? Because I think that's where we are in nutritional health. I reversed my severe arthritis and depression by doing the exact opposite of what the mainstream recommends. It's nearly impossible to believe, and I would not have believed it 5 years ago, but here I am today. But the real problem with red meat is that we're not eating enough of it. And it's true. You know, you think about meat consumption, especially here in the United States, what's the first thing you think of? Chicken is usually the first thing. In fact, you go to any grocery store. I was in Costco yesterday, and you go into a Costco, especially the frozen food section, and you look at the big freezers full of all this frozen meat. What is the vast majority of the meat? It's chicken. And it's chicken because people have been led to believe saturated fat is unhealthy. So let's choose a healthier option and consume chicken instead. In fact, just as an aside, I'm still wearing my continuous glucose monitor right there, Freestyle Libre. Several people have been asking how you get one. I'm like, you got to go to your doctor, get a prescription, ask for the Freestyle Libre CGM, and they can write you a prescription. You don't have to be diabetic. I'm not. You just tell them you'd like that to monitor your blood sugar. And hopefully they write it. It's about $70 for that sensor. And then you use your iPhone or smartphone to get the readings. But anyway, this morning when I woke up, I'm still wearing this blood sugar meter from my fasting experiment last week. And it goes all the way to Sunday, this one. So I'm like, let me do some tests. And so I decided to test high protein. And I had like a pound of rotisserie chicken breast. And it was something like 140 grams of protein and one swell foop. Very little fat and no carbs. And I had very interesting experience. So go check out my stories here on Instagram if you see how that went. But in a nutshell, blood sugar did not spike. It did the opposite of spike. And I had really bad hypoglycemia. That 2.5 hours later, I was still below baseline with my blood sugar. But it's interesting that people think chicken is healthier based solely on the messaging that saturated fat is somehow harmful for them, that red meat somehow is going to be a health robber instead of a health giver. So that's why Michaela in this article is saying, you know, we need to be eating more red meat. Americans are eating too many lean meats. They're having so many chicken breasts. They're having so many salmon and tilapia. These are all lean meats. We're not having enough fatty cuts of meats. And so these are the health givers. And she makes the argument in here as to why they are. So let me explain. We've been misled by poor associational data that has been misinterpreted since the 1960s. And she's right. And she's going to get into it here in a minute. Most of the data that shows that saturated fat is somehow bad was never substantiated. And they leapt to conclusions based on preconceived notions of the researchers. I've told you many times, and you guys have read it in the books out there in the keto world, people like Gary Taubes and Nina Teicholz and some of these movies that are out there. There's a great one called Fat by Vinnie Tortorich. The Magic Pill by Pete Evans, who I told you about last night. There's really good resources out there that have been telling you about the role that Ansel Keys, a researcher from the 1950s, had when he released a bombshell but extremely flawed study called the Country Study. And in there, he had a theory that the more saturated fat a country ate, the more their cholesterol rose, the more heart disease they had. So he was trying to find that correlation. Well, he went to 26 different countries looking for evidence of this, and what he found was it was all over the board. Some countries had higher saturated fat but lower heart disease. Other ones had lower saturated fat intake but higher heart disease. Congruence in the data. So what did he do? Did he publish that all of these points prove that there was no such association? Nope. He took the 26 and went, okay, I don't like most of these, so we're only going to keep 7 that fit my hypothesis. And then they published that study called the 7-country study. And to this day, that is still heralded as solid science. It was flawed science from the beginning. And yet, people still hang their hats on the 7-country study because he found the 7 countries where higher saturated fat had higher cholesterol led to more heart disease that fit his data. And see, I don't think if we could say that every single time people ask the question of like where it came from, I still don't think we need to stop talking about it. Like some people say, why do you keep talking about Ansel Keys? That's old news. I'm like, it's old news to you, but there's people that hear this for the very first time and go, wait, what? And so if you hear me say this story multiple times doing Jimmy Rants, forgive me if you've heard it before, but there's a lot of people that have never heard that story before. We can live longer, healthier lives without it. Most Americans eat twice the recommended intake of protein, including vegetarians who consume 70% more than they need. People who eat diets high in animal protein are more likely to die of heart disease, diabetes, and kidney failure. And this is what was put in that article. Remember, they're responding to the New York Times op-ed called "The End of Meat is Here" by Jonathan Foer. So Jonathan was the one that wrote all those words. Michaela says, almost none of that is true. 75% approximately of your calories around the globe come from plant-based foods, and there have been dozens of studies debunking the claim that red meat causes any kind of disease whatsoever. There was a paper that reviewed randomized controlled trials that evaluated red meat's effect on cancer and cardiovascular disease. The authors found no significant link between red meat intake and the increased risk of heart disease or cancer. In 2019, after they reviewed all the available evidence, 19 British medical journal researchers called for us to retract the guidance on reducing saturated fat as evidence no longer supports it. Now, I've told you in a previous Jimmy Rants, not only is the 2020 dietary guidelines going to continue to call for low fat. I think the last recommendation in the 2015 guidelines was 15% of your calories. They are thinking of lowering it to 10%. And one of the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee members said, oh no, we should make it 0. So this battle against saturated fat ain't going anywhere. Despite overwhelming evidence, researchers and practitioners galore saying, show me the evidence. And yet they keep making these recommendations under the guise of being under evidence with no evidence whatsoever. Studies are showing that diets high in red meat are associated with having a longer life. Red meat consumption is even associated with this thing called longer telomeres. So your telomeres are kind of an aging factor in the body. And so the longer your telomeres, the more anti-aging effects you get. And you get that from eating red meat. Last year, there was this study called PURE, P-U-R-E, had 140,000 individuals from 18 countries. And what they found in the PURE study is that animal protein is associated with a lower risk of mortality, lower risk of death early. Saturated fat is associated with a lower risk of coronary vascular disease. The highest fat intake is associated with a 20% lower risk of death. So all of you who are afraid of eating fat because you think it's going to make you have a heart attack and die, it's just the opposite. Fat and red meat actually are extremely healthy for you. And then the highest carb intake is associated with a 28% higher risk of death. So all of you plant-based people, you love your carbs. You won't be here for the last third of your life that you should have lived. It's what these studies are showing. By comparison, that's the study that informed the food pyramid was only conducted on the 7 countries and is littered with flaws. So this is what I was telling you about the 7 country study. It actually should have been this graph. That's the 26 countries. This is the graph they should have based the evidence on, and there was no evidence there because it was all over the board. But they only did 7 of those countries. 8 Asian studies following 300,000 people from 6 to 15 years found that red meat was inversely associated with CVD mortality in men and with cancer mortality in women. Inversely associated. The more red meat you ate, the less likelihood you would die of cardiovascular disease and cancer. There was another study of 56,000 British individuals that found no significant difference in the death rates between a vegetarian and a meat eater. The claim that high-protein diets damage kidney function, the meta-analysis of almost 2,000 people showed high-protein diets do not adversely affect kidney function. I've always hated that phrase, high-protein diet, because they make it seem like all you're eating is protein. And they make it seem like all you get from meat is protein. To me, combination of the symbiosis between the natural fats found in real food and real animal-based foods like beef, for example. You're not just eating protein, you're getting protein and fat. The only time you're getting just about solely protein from an animal-based source is when you eat like a chicken breast. But even that, you're eating just the breast meat. A whole chicken has plenty of fatty parts on it. And the whole beef, the whole cow, plenty of fatty parts on it. But they always call it high protein. Studies of plant-based diets consistently show lower levels of vitamins and minerals, including zinc, copper, selenium, iron, calcium, vitamin A, and vitamin B12. Guess what has all of those micronutrients in spades? It's red meat. Red meat has zinc, copper, selenium, iron, calcium, vitamin A, vitamin B12 in spades. Oh, and complete proteins. Animal-based foods are the only way to get complete proteins in your diet. You eat eggs, you're getting complete proteins. You eat chicken, beef, lamb, pork, on and on and on, you are getting complete proteins. You eat quinoa and arugula, carrots, you're not getting complete proteins. You'd have to eat a whole crap load of a variety of different plant-based foods to come anywhere close to meeting the adequate complete proteins that your body needs. Another thing nobody talks about, I know they try to dismiss this in the plant-based community, they try to dismiss the complete proteins thing. Oh, well, we can eat a wide variety and we encourage people to blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, you could go to all that work for every meal. Is that what you're doing? And you're going to do that every day for the rest of your life? Or, gee, I don't know, eggs, fish, meat, boom, you get all the completions. Do you think God was stupid when he created animals like that? He put every single essential amino acid in animals, and he did not do it in plants? From a philosophical standpoint, if I was a vegan, I would be thinking that one through very hard. I wonder why animals have all the proteins. I wonder why the plants don't. Could it be the animal made to be eaten? Yes, they were. All of these missing ingredients in a plant-based diet are critical for these metabolic processes to take place. All of them. All of your metabolic processes need zinc, copper, selenium, iron, calcium, vitamin A, and vitamin B12. The vegan diet will likely be deficient and even absent in a number of different nutrients, and so thus you'll need to supplement on a vegan diet. Zinc, DHA, which is one of the essential fatty acids, vitamin B12, iron, and B6 deficiencies have all been linked to depression and gut disorders. And a lot of vegans deal with these issues. DHA, one of the most important nutrients for your brain, is almost completely absent from plant foods other than algae, which I'm sure we can all agree is not a practical fixture in your diet. Plants contain ALA and EPA, those are the other essential fatty acids, which have to be converted into DHA. It's a very inefficient process when all you have to do is eat some animal foods and you get it all. The Mayo Clinic underscores this argument, asserting vegans may be at a great or an increased risk for deficiencies in vitamin B12, iron, calcium, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, and protein. Other than that, you'll be okay, vegan. You'll be all right. Are you seeing why I'm saying in this show here today, forget veganism? We really should be eating meat if we want to save ourselves and save the world. Is it becoming clearer now? Plants are also deficient in nutritionally essential amino acids, as well as the bioactives such as taurine, carnosine, and creatine, all three of which are essential for good cognitive function and antioxidant status. There was a study that found that vegetarians who supplemented creatine improved their working memory. Creatine supplementation did not affect those who already consumed meat. In other words, when you eat meat, you get adequate levels of creatine to the point that you don't need to supplement to see any increased cognition. Another study found that carnitine supplementation resolved depressive symptoms by taking a placebo. So you're seeing that creatine is an important aspect, and again, found in red meat. Protein is also another issue with the vegan and vegetarian movement. One study had almost 1 billion people, they say 1 billion people worldwide suffer from a protein deficiency. Plant protein alone cannot rectify these issues because it is a poor source of amino acids, as we were talking about. The only source of complete proteins in the food supply is animal-based foods. Even if you start vegan with eggs, fish, those are kind of the gateways back into eating meat again. Eggs and fish, they have complete proteins. And then a way to red meat. And red meat not only has amino acids, but it has lots of other things as well. So the bottom line is plants, contrary to popular belief, aren't the great superfood they've been made out to be. Red meat, on the other hand, is critical for health, loaded with nutrients that many people are deficient in. All right, so let's look at the climate. And again, I'm reading from an article in the postmillennial.com. This was written by Michaela Peterson. One other guy helped her write it, but Michaela, I saw it on her page. I was like, ooh, Michaela, I want to read that. And so really good article explaining why red meat is the answer, not veganism. So what about the climate? Will we even have a world to live in if we all eat red meat? So remember, she's responding to that New York Times op-ed piece, The End of Meat is Here, the author Jonathan Foer. So Foer claims that we cannot protect our environment while continuing to eat meat on a regular basis. This is a refutable perspective, but banal truism. So in other words, he's like, yeah, veganism is bad, and if you don't believe me, nah. That's basically what he did. Okay. Not a very good way to have an intellectual argument about a serious topic. So, Michaela says, this oft-cited truism is actually factually false. According to a full life cycle analysis conducted by the EPA, all of agriculture combined produces 9% of the greenhouse gases in the United States. So think about everything associated with agriculture, which means growing crops, which means plant-based foods. 9% of the greenhouse gases come from that. Livestock only accounts for 4% of those kinds of emissions. Now, if we do some simple math, what would that put plant-based agriculture at? Right about 5%. So 9% total in all agriculture, which is plants and animals, but only 4% are from the animals. So 5% comes from the plant-based foods, which is more than the livestock. Meanwhile, transportation always gets left out of the equation. Transportation alone produces 28% of greenhouse gases. Did you see what happened during COVID-19? When we were all forced to stay at home and not be out on the road driving our cars, and buses didn't run. In the big cities around the world, you need to go look this up on Google. Google COVID-19 air quality, and you will see something shocking that happened. In almost every big city in the world where they had smog problems, it all cleared up. Look at the LA skyline. Look at Beijing, China. Look at all these big cities that had major smog, and they all blamed it on, oh, it's all this climate change. Nope. It was that 28% of greenhouse gases coming from transportation, where the transportation was shut down. It's pretty shocking. Has anybody paid attention to that? I know several people in our space has paid attention to that and has made a big deal about it. But have you read about that in the mainstream where, oh my gosh, look at how the air has cleared up magically in all these cities? I guess it wasn't cow farts after all. So red meat is a red herring when it comes to the climate change issue. Just another attempt to rescue the failed hypothesis that red meat causes disease. Now, it is true that some of this monocrop agriculture is going to feedlots to raise livestock. However, 66% of this feed goes to humans, and this number increases if we transform our farming to more regenerative practices. So in that New York Times article by Jonathan Fuller, he makes the point of eating a plant-based diet is the most important contribution that every single individual can make as a means of reversing global warming. According to the National Academy of Sciences, if we eliminated every bit of animal-based agriculture, in other words, all you people that eat meat, you suddenly stopped eating meat, we would only reduce greenhouse gases by 2.6%. But what then? What else do you cut? If you're only cutting it by 2.6%, are you really making a dent? Kind of puts it in perspective, right? He is right that a large portion of climate change and greenhouse gases do come from the food industry, but they don't come from the cows. Monocrop agriculture, the common practice of growing one single crop year after year on the same land, is totally decimating the soil. Mark Hyman, in his book Food Fix, says a third to 40% of all the carbon in the atmosphere today that's causing climate volatility is because we have the loss of soil. Monocrop agriculture destroys this soil, kills all the living matter in it, preventing it from adequately storing carbon. Soil is the biggest problem and the most promising solution when it comes to climate change. There is some really good stuff happening in this arena of what we're talking about here, the soil depleted. Go look up on YouTube, Alan Savory, Savory. He had an incredible TED Talk. So if you look up Alan Savory, I think it's Allen, last Vory, and type in TED, T-E-D, he did a TED Talk all about how cows go on these areas where they have depleted pretty much all the soil, and the cows help to regenerate the land from pooping on it and basically living on it. Their presence feeds life back into it. It's pretty fascinating. And this is something that nobody talks about in the plant-based world because they don't want to give any credence to the fact that animals are things on this planet. A new study from the National Academy of Sciences estimated that we've lost 130 billion tons of carbon from soil erosion since the agricultural revolution. The UN claims we have only 60 more years left worth of harvest because our disastrous soil management practices. 24 billion metric tons of topsoil worldwide are lost due to erosion every year. This is equivalent to removing 6 inches of soil from an area the size of Iceland every single year. And there's nowhere left to go. James P.S. Neal says most of the world's arable land is already in production. Fertilizer plays a major part of the destruction By removing livestock from agriculture, listen to this. Farms need to use artificial fertilizers to fix the nitrogen in the soil. Fertilizer also releases nitrous oxide, which is 300 times more potent than traditional greenhouse gases. Fertilizer is one of the largest consumers of gas, with fertilizer companies like Yara and Mosaic using more natural gas than even Exxon. This, Michaela says, is what is truly unsustainable. So you might be thinking, okay, we don't have much time left with agriculture. Now, what do we do? How do we move forward? So she offers up her advice. Regenerative livestock-based agriculture. This is what I was talking about with Alan Savory over on YouTube. Go look up that. He tells you how we can regenerate so much of the land that has been lost because of these poor agricultural practices. And animals are the solution. Now, vegans don't want to hear that, but they are. Restoring the climate comes down to soil, and cattle are veritable soil magicians. Why? Because they're natural fertilizer machines. I've got some natural fertilizer machines in my backyard on a very small scale in those 19 chickens back there. But a cow poop ain't nothing better fertilizer than cow poop. Promise you. Cow poop is the black gold of the soil revolution. Natural livestock grazing and foraging can help fertilize the soil with manure and restore it to its natural health, rejuvenating the soil, enabling it to sequester even more carbon. Dennis Hancock estimates that we could sequester 4.5 TG of carbon a year back into the soil simply by having better livestock agricultural practices. And that's equivalent, you guys, if they did that, to taking 3.4 billion cars off the road. Huge. According to the UN, we could take 2 million degraded hectares of land around the world and use regenerative agriculture to store the soil and delay the progression of climate change by about 20 years. By mimicking nature and allowing livestock to roam freely over soil and fertilize it with their manure, we can press the reverse button on climate change. All the while, we can provide people with some of the most nutritious food in the world. In 2018, the government of Andhra Pradesh, India, announced they were going to transition 8 million hectares of land from conventional agriculture to zero-budget regenerative agriculture. General Mills has allotted 1 million acres of land for regenerative agriculture, and the nonprofit group Regeneration International has 250 global partners. So there is a regenerative farm called White Oak Pastures. They sequestered 3.5 CO2 E2 kilogram per kilogram of beef versus emitting 4 CO2 E2 kg per kilogram for the Beyond Burger. In other words, that little plant-based burger that they're saying is so much healthier, more greenhouse gas effect than a real burger. Amazing. The argument that this model is not scalable is scientifically inaccurate. There is a whole lot of land on this planet, and a significant portion of it, almost 25%, is not suitable for cultivating crops. However, it's perfect for livestock-based agriculture. Ruminants, which are animals with multi-compartmental stomachs, are incredible machines that can upcycle human inedible cellulose, the most prevalent carbohydrate on the planet. It's called grass. There's a lot of it. And they can turn grass into steaks, milk, and other delicious nutrients. When these herbivores roam freely, you eliminate the need for tillage and fertilizer. Cows also replenish nitrogen to the soil naturally. So here's the truth. The vegan diet will not restore the environment. In fact, it will continue the deadly progression of soil erosion and the gradual destruction of the climate. It's important that we touch on the point of animal cruelty here. The last core tenet of veganism is that eating meat is unethical. Vegan activists will plaster photos and videos of the animals you eat all over the internet trying to terrify you into avoiding those cute little animals. Why would you want to eat that? Look how adorable they are. They do that, guys. And Michaela says, I completely and utterly disagree. If eating red meat increases human health and reduces our diseases, that should be the focus. There's nothing like the suffering that humans have to go through. However, if you're still worried about animal cruelty, the best thing you can do is become a meat eater. Focus on eating grass-fed, locally raised, humane meat. Where we do agree with this vegan in the New York Times article and many other vegan activists is that factory farming is cruel in so many ways, and there are most certainly better ways to do it. This is something I have always said. Vegans who always point to factory farming as the thing they abhor, I'm always like, yeah, we agree with you. We don't disagree on that. And I think this is where local farmers could play a bigger role if the factory farms weren't allowed to have such a stronghold in the food supply. However, even with factory farming, the vegan diet still kills more animals if you look at the statistics. The soil tilling process alone is deadly for many living things. In order to clear the soil to plant crops, farmers must till it, remove any animals that are on that land. Farmers spray their fields with pesticides that kill off so many insects. Not only do pesticides decimate insect life, but they also go into the food that then impacts human health. Monsanto had to settle a $2 billion lawsuit because their pesticide Roundup, which is the most commonly used in the world, has been found to cause cancer. That is the real cruelty. Artificial fertilizer runoff has created a dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. It has killed over 200,000 metric tons worth of fish. This is unprecedented slaughter on a grand scale, all caused because of the plant-based agriculture movement. According to Mike Archer, a professor at the University of NSW, 25 times more animals die to produce an equal amount and weight of wheat protein and beef protein. On the other hand, a cow can produce 500 pounds of human edible trimmed beef. That would give one person access to 1.36 pounds of meat a day or food for an entire year. And incredibly, the only input a properly managed process like this requires is sun, free, rainfall, free, and grass, free. They all exist in nature harmoniously. So it's time to restore our diet and agricultural practices to their natural roots. Only then can we restore the health of humanity and the health of our beautiful planet. So, to conclude, I only eat beef, and I'm a lot more vegan than any vegan. Michaela Peterson wrote this wonderful article, so go look it up, you guys. Eat meat to save the world. Go check it out. And again, it was on thepostmillennial.com. But what do you think about this? Like, it seems that a lot of the arguments for veganism have turned into a religious argument of, well, this is what we believe and it's our creed, rather than looking at what she did in this article brilliantly, the science it shows and what's actually true. So whenever you see a vegan out there in the mainstream, and this vegan was able to get published in the New York Times, huge media opportunity for an op-ed. Apparently, New York Times was not interested in Michaela's response to publish in the New York Times, but thanks to the Post-Millennial, they gave her a chance to get her voice out there. All right, let's see what you guys have to say about this one. Gonna come to Instagram first, then over to Facebook, and finally to YouTube. Welcome in, welcome in. JimmyRants.com is the website. See what you guys have to say about this one. In Canada, you can buy CGMs online. Okay, cool, Jax. I did not know that. Here in America, you need a prescription from your doctor, so. Beth says the nutritional density is referring to the dense amount of food they have to eat to keep up. Yeah, that's true. Kind of like cleaning up a paint spill by pouring gallons of paint to cover it, but whatever. I just assumed the cows were self-isolating. Oh, yeah. Rachel says, I know vegans who choose their diet for the animal rights reasons, but have no problem killing bugs. See, that's the thing too, Rachel. They're selective about who gets animal rights. It's like, um, we're all for not killing animals, but are we talking about all animals? Because, yeah, the pesticide thing alone, like, in order to grow their precious plants, you have to kill a whole lot of insects. You have to kill a whole lot of things. But, yeah, they seem to not have any problem killing bugs. Squishing cockroaches and slapping mosquitoes is morally okay to them for some reason. Although there are some that take it to the extreme, Rachel, and they don't even slap at an animal that lands on them and wants to bite them. Carol says, in many subjects, it's all about being right instead of true. Oh, that's true, Carol. And, you know, when it comes to your health, when it comes to important like the, you know, preservation of the planet, are we worried about being right, or do we want to find the truth? And I think those of us with prudent minds want the truth. We want whatever is true to be out there. It's something I try to do here on Jimmy Rant. So thank you, Instagram. Appreciate your input. Let me pop over here to my Facebook page, and then we'll be over to you guys here in a minute on YouTube, you guys. What's up, man? Thanks for being here. See what you guys have to say about this. Tracy says, tell the Mongolians that meat's bad for them. Exactly. There's a lot of cultures that have meat as the basis of their diet. Tammy says, I just recently heard 2 vegans say that eating keto or carnivore is a very selfish thing to do. I just had to shake my head. Well, because again, they're caught up in this belief that eating meat is somehow causing harm. And so if they have that belief system, Tammy, they would think you're selfish because, well, you're enjoying the taste, but you're really wrecking your health and wrecking the planet. They actually believe that stuff. So I'm not surprised they would say that. Tammy says, I reversed my kidney failure on keto carnivore while also upping my salt. That's awesome. Tracy says, eating meat is better for the planet than eating all the vegetables. Think of how much farmland would be needed to feed the world. And I think about like all these places where we keep agriculture now. If you didn't have those, or you at least limited those spots, we would have plenty of places for cows to roam. Think of all the open spaces, like when you're driving around in America. Think about all the places all over this country where there's nothing but farmland, nothing but crops being grown. And then imagine where those crops are. Could be cows, could be sheep, could be pigs, could be all kinds of animals. So yeah, that one doesn't hold very much water in my book. Farmers actually rotate the crops, at least where I do. Well, good farmers rotate, but some of these factory farms do not. The farmers take better care of their animals than themselves. A lot of them do. I used to have a really nice farm down the road from me, about 20 miles, called Live Oak Farms. And they had to shut down because the owner, not the farmers themselves, but the owner, the one that owned the property and everything, was found to have embezzled some money. So they confiscated all of his assets, which included that farm. So they had to shut that farm down. And so that's where I used to get a lot of my stuff locally. Now I have to go to farmers markets and some other places, but there are really good people in the farming industry, especially your local farming industry, that can provide some really good things. And you're right, they take care of their animals a lot better than themselves. Ken says, I like the research about the environmental impact of plant-based meat being worse than real meat. Yeah, it is. It's true. All right, thank you, Facebook. Let me pop over here to my YouTube channel. What's up, guys? See what you have to say. I saw a lot of comments come in. Whoa! I had an explosion on my YouTube channel today. Everybody wants to talk to me. What's up, Sam? Kim Call, thank you for being here. Champion. Keto Ann says, I thought salmon was fatty. Well, salmon is fatty-ish. This is the thing, people say fatty fish, but not all fish has as much fat as you think it does. A lot of it has a whole lot of protein. How will animal abuse save the world? Oh, we got a vegan, guys. He's here. Cows tend to poop more when you don't kill them. Okay. Thank you for sharing all. That's what most of this is. This is a vegan going to town with all the vegan talking points. Should I fun with them a little bit? Yeah, we got a little bit of time to have fun. You're not having a very defendable position. Why do you try so hard to defend animal abuse? You actually lie to support your animal abuse. It's so sad for you. Just go eat a vegan burger already. Humans are not the only beings on this planet you would call nothing you propose humane if you were being killed. And talking about abusing or killing, veganism kills far less of everything. You're speaking so many falsehoods. This is fun, guys. Like, I've literally never had a harasser on Jimmy Rants like this. So you dislike Monsanto and still can be a vegan in this guy's delusion. Somebody's calling him out. Dude, go preach vegan lies somewhere else. You're on the wrong show. A cow's proper diet is grass. You're right, chicken. Parm, appreciate that. You're naturally an ape. Ding dong, apes thrive off plants. Some of us in this conversation might actually be an ape. Hey, holla. Save the world by stabbing things. Would you ban non-grass-fed raising beef? Apes. So, anyway, this is fun. James says, I don't care if you kill animals to eat. I just don't think it's a very healthy diet. Well, that is a way to look at it. Again, I see no evidence that it's not a healthy diet. Poor Shirley is one of my regulars. If veganism works for you, that's great. If carnivore works for you, that's great. I'm a firm believer in finding what works for you and not patronizing people who don't eat like you. Guys, this goes on and on and on. They're still going at it back and forth. Thank you. Why is he trying to poison the well by reading in that stupid voice? It's called entertainment, my brother. And one of these days when you get a funny bone, you'll figure out that being funny actually catches more attention than being dry. So you're going to have to go over to YouTube now. It was literally this long list of all these comments. I knew I put a headline about Save the World. That was going to get some vegans into my live stream over on YouTube. Whew. I'm glad the weirdos stay on YouTube. Not all of you are weird, but Race Lever, speak for yourself like a big boy. I speak for myself all the time. I do not hide. This is called Jimmy Rants for a reason. So, but thank you for all your input. You definitely gave me a chuckle today. So, regardless of what that guy said, I think what Michaela wrote in this article was wonderful, because we need that perspective that meat is not this great unhealthy thing for your body that has been made out to be. And cry as they may, the vegans can whine and complain that, oh, woe is me, y'all are killing the planet, you're killing humans, you're blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you for that position. You're wrong. At least in my case, you're wrong. But if that works for you, go for it. And if eating meat works for me and Michaela and a lot of you guys, we're going to go for it. Stop making it such a friggin' cult. Religion. Why do you care what I eat in my diet? You shouldn't. But that doesn't stop me from sharing why I eat the way I do. And I eat the way I do because animal-based foods are the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. We had a fun one here today. Go check it out over Instagram. That's where the fun begins, at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We do also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, which by comparison to the rest of my channels today, and especially YouTube, you guys are kind of the boring ones today. I'm just kidding. Thank you guys for being here. And then thank you to all my vegan haters over on YouTube today. I had other people in there too, but the vegan hater, he's just going to town. Nothing cult-like, quite like you. They're still going to town, guys. I'm going to end this, and they're still going to like go back and forth in the comments. Take it to take it to Twitter. That's where the craziness usually happens, you guys. But thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live here on Instagram, you missed a good one. But you can watch it on replay, IGTV. Just click on that little button down in the corner when you're on my page. Of course, if you're watching this long into it, you've already done that. So thank you for watching on IGTV on replay. We also do throw them up over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, and you too can fight vegans over there on my YouTube channel. Finally, you can go to JimmyRants.com. It's the official website for this show. And while you're there, I don't charge any advertising or anything here for this show, but if you like what you hear and you like to heckle me on YouTube, just click on the Patreon link when you're at JimmyRants.com, and you can help support this show. I do love doing this content, but it does take a lot of time and energy, and would definitely love if you get value for you to show me value back. All right, guys, that's it for now. We'll be back again real soon. Bye. All right. Is the vegan heckler still there? That was hilarious. Like, I could see all these comments coming in on YouTube, and I never get like tons of comments on YouTube. But today I was looking at them. I'm like, oh crap, when I go to YouTube, there's going to be a million comments, and I'm scrolling, trying to get all the way back to the top, and then it ends up being a vegan heckler. Thank you, vegan heckler. I really appreciate you being here today. I'm glad that my mere presence in your life today caused you to think a little bit. And that's all I do. I don't try to shove anything down your throat that you don't want to believe. But I do always present information. And information, the last time I checked, information does not kill you. It does not. Information informs you. And information helps you make better decisions in your life. And if you make better decisions based on having good information, then that's a part of living a human life. And the time we stop thinking for ourselves, you guys, is the time we all need to pack this up and just get off this planet, because I think we have too much non-thinking going on in the world. People have become robots, just lemmings, and believing everything. And don't get me started on how that works all across our everything in life. But it is what it is. All right, let me pop off of here for now. I do have a very busy day. I had a really good interview earlier this morning with Dr. Will Cole, my Real Talk podcast co-host. We had a diversity expert from the Whole30 program come on and talk about the race relation stuff. I also have a good friend of mine who eats keto, who is also an African-American man that I'll be interviewing later today, that will air on the Livin' La Vida Low Carb show tomorrow. So look forward to doing that. Yeah, just busy. All right, let me pop off of here for now. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again soon. Bye. I don't want to hang up on you guys, because you guys have been giving me the best entertainment I've seen in a while on Jimmy Rants with all this back and forth. Thank you for all your comments. Shirley, hang in there. You're one of my regulars, and I see you kind of getting a little bit of the hammer thrown down on you a little bit. You've handled them well. Looks like the boys can't handle Shirley too well. She's popping you guys to the side. Get that crap out of here. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you again soon. Bye.